because the energy resources of them are very close to the center of the center line, and we don't see it because they need a specific condition to be in that zone. There is the same thing as if you look at the structure of the ring of Saturns. The ring of Saturns, when you look, there are different size meteorites, or what we call ice blocks. These are all tritium, deuterium, and then you have the planet itself. You look at the size, how they change in size. They become smaller and they become bigger. And the field strength dictates most of this. The same thing happens in the universe. The more powerful, what we call universal stars, we will see near to the central line of the universal line, what we call the principal matter. We see the same thing in the galaxies, but with the difference that with the galaxies, the universal field force, if you look, this is a central line, the fields are emitted, and as they expand and go further, different strength comes, but there are different galaxies around. So the total shape, field forces, dictates the final shape of a galaxy. How these interact and allow. The same thing happens with our universe. Our universe is not one shape. Our universe, when the man goes out, is very much like a galaxy in the same environment of universal, depending on what fields the other universes exert on it. But what we see in general with the present knowledge of the man is this part. We don't see the dips and ups. The same as what we see with galaxies. Our universe, when now that the knowledge of man has extended to and understand, is when you go out, you'll see each universe not spherical. It's very much the same shape as what we see with the galaxies in our universe. Depending on the field forces which have created other galaxies, and they dominate to create their own field, and their fields dictates the shape of the field of the galaxy, the other galaxies. Then some bumps, if it's stronger or if it's weaker. This is why man has arms and legs and we have different shapes. So what is becoming important is to understand the totality of the knowledge that now we have given you two independent new energy sources. One you see in creation of the field affecting the other cars, and one you see with the creation of the matter. But in principle, they're all the same, static and dynamic. What your target should be from now on is to find new structural systems, combination of the GANs, different gases, GANs, nano matters, to start creating and absorbing energies. If you want a megawatt, you want a kilowatt. Would you like to get on which bandwidth? Would you like to become more gravitational? Would you like to become more magnetical? If you become more gravitational, you produce a higher power. If you become magnetical, you feed something else which you decide. This is one of the reasons the new generators will have no what you call dynamic field force. If you look at the condition and understanding of the transmission, is very much what Tesla did. He understood that the fields will cross the whole planet, doesn't matter where he is. All he needed to do, he found the coil matching strength on receiving on the other end. Now you play with plasma, you cover the whole of universe. This goes, a lot of it, against most of the teaching of present time in world of physics, but the present physics has been set up on the fallacies as we understood. Huh? You know which one? Are they on this list? Tell them. Go now. Just go now and tell them. Just go and say. So you understand the process, that how things happen, how the structures, you decide from now on what to create, because you have the things to be replicated, you have the processes that you can do, you have seen the dynamic interaction and the static interaction. It's you who have to decide now to make the receivers. We've given you the sources, we've given you the knowledge of the source. In time, gradually, we teach you how to make the receivers too. So everything becomes wireless and at the point of demand. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. I'll just remind our viewers here, we have 154 viewers, that if someone has a question, they can put up their hand and we can bring you in so you can ask your question. You can also put a question in the chat and we can look at it that way. There was a question from Jay. He says, I'd like to understand how a person's aura can be photographed. Can a normal camera be adapted to capture an image? And is a person's aura their plasma or magnetic field?
Any wise ones who will know, understand, would like to tell us? Anybody who wants to answer this question? All right. Nobody wants to answer it.
I guess it's too technical. I believe they use some kind of electrical field while they take the picture, and it's able to show the alteration apparently in a person's aura. But I don't know all the details on that, and apparently our panelists and guests are stumped on that one too. But what about the part, is a person's aura their plasma or magnetic field? Could you say something about that, Mr. Kesh, perhaps?
We create, we are in a way, if you look at it, we spoke about the dynamic reactor, we spoke about the plasma system. Us, we are another system. This time we have a bigger composite of the material. So our aura, the same as this system was creating fields and the other cars could feed it, the other one which created with interaction of the other one materials. There is no difference with the human body. Your aura, what you call aura, the colors you see, is the interaction of the materials you have got in respect to the environment. You can keep the same aura and move in different environment, that the color will change, because it's the environment which dictates, not the matter. So aura is part of you. You can actually create a lot of energy out of your own aura, if you understand how. So if you make a receiver and try to see what energies you can get from your body, most probably you can create every element in your body out of your own aura, because they extract energy from the universal energy and they give back. So you can actually create all the materials out of your body, inside your body. And the doctors in Peru who work in the medical side, they have shown this. And we've seen it with Dr. Rodriguez. We look at his system where we assessed with the, what they call examination, that the blood had a high iron, and when he made a GaNs of iron for the dog with the cancer tumor, which had a higher iron level. The iron disappeared, the tumor disappeared once we applied the GaNs of the iron into the body, in this outside the body of the dog. So we've seen the transformation and transition of the matter from the GaNs environment, and this is how it will develop. We have two choices: to keep things away and just teach you how to make coils, or to bring you into the new direction. Now you understand and you've seen the rest. But it has to go, the process of teaching has to go from matter to nanotechnology to GaNs technology to plasma. And then once you have a plasma, now you have a free run. It's you who decides what your plasma to become now. You have the clay. You want to make a plate out of it, or would you like to make a statue out of it? It's the free clay, and the maker, the master is you. Would you like energy out of this field flow? Would you like matter out of it? So what kind of matter? Or would you like to keep it in the plasma state till one day you decide what matter you want? You want aluminum today and you want copper tomorrow. Any other question?
There's a question from the live stream from Gur, who asks, is there a specific part of the car or engine that functions as the receiver part, or is it the whole car?
As you've seen with the motors with Peter, is the whole structure. What we understand and what we know further is going back to understanding of totality. You look at the cars, we were discussing this morning and in past few days with the Innovation Center. You have cylinders and you create a very high air power. You create a lot of heat. So in one way or another, if you go back to the Chinese cooking, when you put a wok on and you put a heating on, you create nanomaterials layers. So your system is partially nano-layered. So your fuel behaves as a plasma when it goes through it. It's like when you put the food in your mouth, when it enters, it's a solid matter. When it enters the digestion system, in the tracking system of the, because it's in the GaNs state of the body, the tube of intestines becomes, the material becomes in the GaNs state. So fuel becomes, once it enters this nano coated, because of the high temperature, behaves as a plasma, and it taps into the energy of the system which you add to it. That's why it reduces reduction, because you don't need that much, you release the energy in different forms. It's understanding the totality of the structure. You can run a car without any fuel if you understood that how to convert the plasma into the physical motion, to deliver the energy to what you want into the, what you call, the whole motion of the system. The biggest problem man will have is to let the wheel go. Understand, positioning is much easier than the wheel. The wheel of a car goes back when we became Romans, and we found the chariots and we put the steel around it. It's been the biggest invention for mankind, but now it's become the biggest problem for mankind, because it doesn't allow the understanding of no need for the wheels. Now we can go into the dimension of the motion of the plasma without physicality. Breaking the tradition of thousands of years is very difficult. Any question?
Zane has a question in the Q&A. It says, if our brain is a hypercrystal, what frequency is it tuned to? How can we tap into it with the fields? And how can we use this?
Make yourself a GaN system which absorbs that energy. It's very simple.
Could it be done with the GANs of brain?
Yes, if you can get your own brain gas, very easy. But you
What if,
can do
what if
actually.
you, what if you, like in the case of Zane, had your pet wolf die a few days ago, and you turned
What?
his pet wolf passed away, and he turned the brains into GANs.
We're becoming the time when they used to go and dig out the bodies out of the graves.
Well, not exactly, but it was mentioned about iodine, for example.
Oh,
And
he was looking for free iodine.
well, in a sense, but it goes deeper than that. I mean, he had a very strong relationship with this animal. It was part dog and part wolf, and had it, I think, for 20 years or something, and it just suddenly passed. So I guess he thought it was a good idea to use the brains for that purpose. So now he
Hold
had.
on to it. I'll tell you how to use it.
Hmm. Okay.
It looks strange to a lot, but as you see in the knowledge when it's needed, we bring it out, then it makes sense at that time.
Right. Yeah, a lot of things seem strange or unusual in some of these procedures, and it's easy to just sort of dismiss some of those things and say, that's crazy. Don't even go there. But on the other hand, some of these things are turning out to be more true than what appeared on the surface, and some of the techniques and some of the ideas actually do have some strong roots, and some of it in ancient teachings and so on, apparently, with you know dating back to alchemy or other types of deeper teachings in the past.
Man has progressed according to understanding of his environment. And we've seen developments, especially in the human culture, when there has been more balance in the what we call the ranking of the man. Egyptians moved very rapidly in the knowledge until they created the separation. There was not much difference between the ranking of the man, as long as they knew that each one had a part to do and understood their part. Where, for example, there's been a fallacy that pyramids was made by a slave. Actually, from the present results and the data and the information we have, pyramid is one of the structures which was made by most fairest condition ever. Because the man on the top was paid more or less the same as the man on the bottom who pushed the stone. Because it was a thing to do for application of what was believed in unison. But I understand this part, I do my part. Well, I understand the other part in the bigger scale. It wasn't done by slavery, it was done by equality. The history of the book of pyramids will be opened and you understand. This is the process that what I said, when we put these systems in the coming time across the cities where people receive everything, people will do the job because it's there for them. This is what I understand better, I do better. I like to do the gardening on the pavements of the street because I like the color of it and the way I want it to be done, because I enjoy it, so the others. I don't need to get paid because I have everything I have. I have everything I want. This was tested in Iran in a few years ago, during the early times, or some 20 years ago. There were a lot of free lands in the city, buildings not built, and there was no finance to build. So the government encouraged these empty lands till somebody builds. You can make gardens if you want to do it. So people start volunteering, making gardens out of every piece of land in Tehran. They all became green. People all had a, if you came and you want to build your plot, now you could destroy. There was nothing, but people had a place to go. And they looked after it. Nobody paid them. But it was for common good that everybody enjoys. It wasn't made that you get paid. It was made that the beauty of it, the comfort of it, the environment of it brought the whole communities together. We get to that point. We've seen the test and trial of it. And this is what the ultimate goal is, to provide the facilities, the knowledge that we don't need to worry about the hunger. So I'm not hungry. I can go to a shop and find the clothes I want. I don't need to stash away many clothes because I know it's there when I want to go, but I go to a factory, I know how to make it. The sweatshops should not exist because the man understands the process of it. How do we become the new exchange system? How do we finance this new understanding when everybody has what they want and where they need to be? The changes comes as part of what we call the beginning of it, is the meeting of today in Rome of the Universal Council, setting up the structure for the humanity in a way of without boundaries, without language. But at the same time, everyone works in the same direction to make that possible. It's very hard. It's been ingrained to us and we don't see it. But once we understand it, we just fall for it because it's so beautiful to do it. We take what we need when we need, according to what is pleasure to us to live a comfortable life. This is important.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have. Did you muted me?
No, I think you're okay there.
Yeah, okay.
I just interrupted because Ann Zai sent me a message that he wanted a translator. I think it's probably a Chinese person. And I see that Bob Young's here. He does translate. So perhaps there's a question from Ann Zai that could be translated by Bob Young.
Okay, let me explain to you. Yeah, no problem. Could you want to ask the question, what it is? Is Bob there or Bill there who can do, or Paul there who can do the translation?
Bob, can you go ahead?
Yeah, me. Eric.
Hi.
Hi.
And Ann Zai, do you want to open? I'll open your microphone, and can you talk to him, Bob?
OK， 那亚楠，你可以看一下那个你的分享屏幕。
I have to mute because he's got the speakers on. Is it possible to communicate with him? Hello.
好，你可以说了。
The microphone was open and then it muted again.
亚楠，你把那个静音是不是又按上了？
哎，你好，你好，那个是这样的，我们现在做了一个这样的系统，然后想，但是呢，自运行是运行不了，然后呢，它这个我先说一下这个系统的结构哈，就是它左边这个，就左边这两个线圈啊都是无限环，就是内圈和内圈进行循环，外圈和外圈进行循环。然后但是呢，这个系统做出来之后呢，对于它的激活方面，它就是自运行不了这个情况。然后想询问一下，开始就是说那个Rina， 因为做这个系统的时候会不会有什么可以注意到的地方，让它然后来运作？
你说说你左边是怎么连接的来着？
就是里面的小线圈和小线圈循环，就是小线圈里面的小线圈的引力场连接对面小线圈的磁场，这样循环。
但是是反过来的，就是一个八字环的，小的连小的，八字环是这样。
对对，小的连小的，大的连大的。
哦，明白了。
Can you tell us what's being said, please?
Yes, he's built this device, and the two coil on the left, they were connected like infinite loop, and the inner coil connected the other inner coil, and in infinite loop, and the out coil connect the out coil like that. But the device is not working self sustain.
This is obvious, and this is what I keep on saying. You need to create a misbalance in your coils. The two coils more or less are made the same way, they're in balance, so you don't have any traffic flow of fields. Very little.
So it needs to be all GaNs coated with different GaNs or
with different
size of
gases
coil?
or different loads in across. This is a balanced situation. You have no, you got to understand. I'm gonna go, if I can use this. This is what I say, a lot of people are doing this but don't understand it. You are creating a traffic, but when these two traffics are balanced, where do you expect to create, to tap into it? It's a static, more or less, flow.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what I said. Use one of these center cores as aluminium, for example. Another one, the bigger one, aluminium. You need to create a field flow that you can tap into it.
Okay.
If there is no, what I call, if you compare it to the physical structure, if you don't have a hill higher and a lower, the water doesn't become flowing down the river. It becomes a lake, it's static. This is what you created, and this is what we're trying to explain. Every part of this structure has a purpose, and you have to understand how you create this purpose and the way you can apply it. You need huge understanding but little application. And how you create, would you like to put your energy, what they call the load, on which part? Do you want to be here, or are you connecting at one end and the other? It looks like a lot of wires, but you have to understand, are you connecting to the magnetic of one of the weakest and the gravitational of the strongest of the other to create that flow, and then you tap into it. You're not coming.
那就是他就是开始就说这个能量你完全做的是一样的，就是要用产生不同的那个场强，然后产生一个那个循环嘛，就是刚才他讲的那些内容，你可以用不同的干丝试一下，这样。
然后是这样的，我们这两个线圈呢是分别组成，就是说这不是每一层线圈呢，不是有4层嘛，里面有2层，外面有2层，对吧？每一层是用的不同的干丝来组成的，每一层都是不同的干丝，然后会有梯度。我们这个的进线就是下面这个线圈的进线和上面线圈的出线连接插接板。这个出线呢，我们是连接的它的那个磁场，就是最大圈的这个线圈的这个出线，连接到了插线板。然后呢，下面这个入线呢是连接到中间的引力场一个入线。我们这个在就是说这2个线圈呢，它有一个设计，就是说在之前的教学有一个设计是。就是说从中间走引力场，然后先走小圈的引力场，再走大圈的引力场，然后大圈的引力场进入小圈的磁场，对吧？然后在这儿有一个就是要回到这个中心的小圈的引力场的开端，我们有这么一个设置，把这个设置放进来了。这个磁场呢也是到最后这个磁场出去之前呢，要回到这个磁场最开端。就是引力场变成磁场，这个开端给它一个回馈，引力场回馈，磁场我们也会有一个回馈。就是我们在干丝涂层，再一个是我们的输出，再一个是我们还有这个回馈的设置，这3个点。然后您帮忙给开始先说一下。
不，你刚才说那个分别涂层的，你是分别涂层的什么？对，
就是说这每一这个线圈啊，不是分4层，里面2小圈有2层，大圈2层，然后4层，每层都是不同的干丝组成的。
测一下嘛。
Can you translate for us?
Yeah. Wait a minute, please. 你能不能说一下你们是怎么涂层的？
我们用了不同比例的钢丝，但是这个说的话就不好说，因为那个比例，我们都是，不是特定的放在一个缸子里或怎么着，我们是直接往上面喷的，不是调好了，我们是现场调的，调了直接这比例就没法说，但是肯定梯度是有。
哦，那这个，这样让我怎么说？这个你们有大概的是什么多一点吗？比如说哪一种的氧化铜或者什么别的哪一种大概多一点？你不用说具体的比例。
氧化铜多一点，然后我们用的氧化铜啊，还有合金钢丝，CEST3 CO2，这都有。
Yeah, he said he used different ratio of mixed gas, and in the upper coil and the coil down, and the other coil. So, but he doesn't know the exact ratio. But he thinks there should be some field flow here, but there's no.
Let me explain something, if you can translate. It's for everybody to know, because this is what we discussed with the Innovation Center too. There is a problem in total understanding of this work. And you have to, can I share please? Can you give me the sharing of the screen please? It's got the breakcast control behind.
I think you can do it there now.
Okay. Okay, we are on. There is a part of the understanding of this technology which you have, and I referred to it a few times, is this that at the moment you are creating energies, but you see no result, and you say it doesn't produce. As we know, the coils create magnetic gravitational fields because we have them, we've seen them. It's for you to understand how to tap into it, but there is a problem here. The problem with most of you, especially when you go into the energy, is if you're going from the plasma to matter energy, or you're going from matter energy to plasma energy, and then you have to understand very much, a lot of you, we see systems tested and understood works in 110 but does not work in 220. 110 60 hertz gives you result, 220 50 hertz does not. If you have 110 or 110 50 hertz, you still don't see any result. Just because you have 110 does not mean you achieve it. You have to understand how you bring the system into application of the appliances at your point. This is part of the research we are doing now in Italy. It's actually ongoing. Part of you in the American system, we've seen last week John showing a system, two systems going together and showing 70% reduction, because the system stands at 110 at 60 hertz. You have a 110 50 hertz in your compressors in 220s and it doesn't work. The influence on the matter state is a 60 hertz. We know this for a long time. That's why systems work in American system 60 hertz better than they do in a 50 hertz in the matter state 220. This is why you say it doesn't work. The energy is there. You have to find out which end you sit and how you develop it, how you work with it. We have two compressors which the field is 110, but the frequency is 50. You have to understand the plasma fields, when it comes and it hits the component of the copper, 50 hertz is the gap which has the pass-through. 59, 65. Do we go to 70 and 80 hertz at 220 and see if you can penetrate faster and bigger powers? Understand the principle of how the frequency of the matter penetration is done. The fields comes, these are the atoms. Only when the matter field is in a way that it can get through the combination of it, you get it. And 60 hertz, around about 58 to 62 and higher, allows this. Look at the amplitude and the frequency and the rotation and how fast you can pass it through. Because the atoms of the copper have a fixed distance, and because of their electron vibration, they have their own motion. You have to fit in, and that's where you tap into the energy. This is what not understood by a lot of people. 60 hertz systems in the state works very easily. You've seen it last week. You repeat the same system in 220, you have a problem. That's why John's system was very looking attractive last week, because yes, it works in the United States. They sit on the 60 hertz. The heart body of the man sits at 60, because we carry copper in our structure. You have to understand the reason of the conversion. It's not that it doesn't work, it means you haven't understood the process, how it's done, how it's changed, how it does affect the system. The energy is there. Very simple. You take the same triangle. There's a question. The system works, but you have to understand how you tap to it, where you tap into it. Is for you to adjust till you see the first signs. Innovation Center is working on this now, trying to understand it. Do we need to change our systems that we don't work with the matter state of the copper? We develop a technology which we work with the fields of the copper within the atomic structure of the molecules of the copper of the wire. Then we don't need this matter state, we work in the field of it. In a way, what it means is, if you have an electron and a proton, and then you have these Coulomb barriers, do we work with the energy in this environment without actually relying on a Coulomb's barrier totality? And then convert it back up. It's the conversion which is your problem. It's not that the system doesn't work. You have to understand how you create conversion. Do you need a zinc and a copper, which the gap in between is about the same, and it gives you the energy that you can tap into the matter state? What's his name? Eric Clausen came to understand this, just touched on it some year ago, 2 years ago, and when he went to China, he lost it. He never understood the rest of it, or he did, he never disclosed it. I taught him the basis of it. It's you who have to create a combination. Let me explain to you something very, those of you who start testing for energy. You have the, what I call plasma unit, or you have the dynamic unit. You make yourself a GaN which is connected to the center, let's say lead. You create yourself a container which is nano-coated. Now you work in the reverse. And then you can tap into this body as we explained. What about if you make this surface a dynamic system? You make aluminum, nano-coated on one side, copper, nano-coated on one side, and join these or another material, or make just one of them and move them in respect to the center and see what kind of energies you extract. This is what here. Here you achieve, and now you decide. You have created a center point. Now you have to find out, is a combination of aluminum and copper in between what I call the process here will allow the energy which you want to create or extract. Because at this point, on this side, you receive the energies which are coming from this side, and you collect the magnetical from this side. Composite walls, composite materials, nano-coated, gas-coated. On the matter side, you pick up. It's from now on, it's for you to decide. It's not your system is not working. All the systems, your gas systems work, but you have to find out how much energy is released between the two coils. You have created, that's why I designed this coil, what do you call it? The coil connection in a, what do you call it? Gravitational magnetic loop to create the same position. Your coil is exactly like this because the energy is coming to one constantly and you drain the energy from the other. It's you who have to find out where the energy point is and what energy you want to extract. Do you want to stay in the matter state? Do you want to be in the gas state? It's not that your system is not producing energy. It's you who have not managed to tap to the strength you want to drag out of it, or you're expecting it. Move, when you have these systems, you put coils and connected the coils. And let me go back here. You have two coils and you have connected them in a loop of one to the other, and then from one to the other, and then vice versa in a way of one to the other side and back on. You have to decide, are you tapping here? Or are you moving here? Put your voltmeter on it. If it's Vernie back, he'll tell you, you will understand very quickly. If you supply this first coil from your supply, and now you drag your voltmeter across here, you might see 1,000 or 10,000 volts crossing. But you have to create that motion. I have developed a new capacitors which we can share with you. I don't know if you've shared the video before or not. At the moment, you make your capacitors this way. You make a coil and you go. The capacitors we developed now, it needs to be tested, and you can test. It's very simple. You take a coil, that's the center pin, you make rings, not attached to each other, not as a coil. Nano-coat copper rings or aluminum rings, one aluminum, one copper, you can change it as you like, or all of them copper, and let them loose on the pin, on the gravitational pin. So what you have vibration of the energy amongst them and how they vibrate, and you try to tap into the energy between these, and you see what kind of voltages you get. Make a brush and you see how you go. These ring capacitors are very much can be used like amplifiers. If you buy those coils, the ring coils, you can go to the shops and buy these ring coils which are coated like this, and if you put them and put current through them, where you, if this is the north and the south, or entry and the exit of the coil, and you put a coil back to front, you'll find out these coils start vibrating, and in the center core you can produce huge amount of electricity. This was done by scientists in Belgium, and I was asked to assess how it does it. I built one, and the poor scientist, one of those who's been poisoned again with the liver cancer by the Belgian authorities. Red Circle knows him. He used this technology of the vibration, and I just confirmed, yes, it works, because he doesn't need the vibration of the two creates a current in the middle. Here you have a nano, which is a plasmatic condition. Now, the nanomaterials do not come together. It depends how you feed your energy from one to another, you get the flow. And the vibration of the rings creates totally different kind of energy. This is the transformers of the energy from the gas into the plasma. Do you want to stack this up? You don't see it, but because these are all GaNs, and we know GaNs materials don't stick to each other, the field interaction between them creates the vibration. And that vibration allows you to create and absorb a spectrum of the energy, depends where you tap into it. If you create all of these from copper, you see very little. But if you make a copper ring, aluminum ring, and titanium ring, and nanocoat all of them on a central pin, do the same thing as you put with the ganses, with aluminum and the rest, then you'll find out you create a vibration, the energy you need. These ring plasmas work as amplifiers, but depends how you do it. Or you can do the same thing, rings over rings. You put them in and they vibrate and you create amplification, or vice versa. This we have already, Bernie has built them, and we're testing in different applications of it. Is Bernie back in the background?
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Kesh.
Hi, Bernie. Bernie, could you please show us if you have the picture of these ring capacitors, please?
Let me get it.
Thank you very much. So you understand the development and how you have to find in how and the way you nano-code these rings, it gives you a spectrum of the energies you can absorb from the center capacitor. We are testing very powerful systems of the capacitance where what we have, we use, is Douglas in the background, or we don't see him?
I'm here, Mr. Kesh.
Hi, Douglas. Douglas, could you show us the matter capacitor with the aluminum foil, if you have it, pictures of it?
Yes, sir. You want one I burned up or one that I have not burned up?
Both of them, both of them. These people have to open their understanding to new ways of the energy and transfer of the capacity build. One of the capacitors which is getting developed by the Innovation Center is that you have this center pin, which is nano-coated, your gravitational pin, and we don't use any more copper and paper. We nano-coat the aluminum, and we just put the GaNs on aluminum, and then we wind around the center pin. So you don't have any more paper, that there's a break point. You have a very powerful system, and then we put the, what you call the second coil on top of the aluminum. There is no, and we see huge increase amplification in power. When it has detected 1000 volts from a normal 220. So you can increase the amplification to 15-20,000, which allows you to go into the transmission and conformation of the energizing the plasma. The other one which Douglas is working on is the copper is kept as copper in matter state, and he does the other way. Can you show us if Douglas you are ready, or when, please?
Let's see. I'm still. I got one picture up of the one I burned up, but I'm digging through the other ones for one that's assembled. And actually, I've got some that are disassembled. If you want me to show them,
please. Stop sharing. You can come in if Wernie is ready. Wernie, is your sister? Can you show your pictures first?
Yes, I can. What I have, Mr. Kesh, are the one that the rings are far apart.
No problem. Just
okay.
show it the way we done it. You show first, Wernie, please, and then we go to Douglas to go further. These are. Can you explain to us how it's made, please?
Okay. We have a center pin, a nano-coated copper, wrapped with aluminum. This aluminum is with GaNs on the inner side. Then each ring, we have rings. They are separate from each other. At first, I put it this way to have some space, like the capacitor did by Douglas. But at the end of the testing, we have to put them together that they interact more closer. Each is individual ring touching each other as a ring, just like an ordinary ring, and nano-coated. What we observe is, by the way, the first ring on the far right, has this extension wire that is connected to the center. And what we observe is the farther you measure the voltage, for say from the center or from the first ring, the farther it goes to the farthest ring, the higher the voltage potential you can get. And when you have all of these rings together side by side that they are touching each other, when you rub the other probe of the voltmeter across it, you get higher voltage, very high voltage. And when Mr. Kesh asked me to measure the voltage of each ring in relationship to the first ring, I notice an amplification as I go farther. Okay.
Yeah. So there is no paper in winding. It's just the aluminum nano coated and GaNs coated.
No paper. And by the way, the distance of the ring to that of aluminum is they exactly fit, but you can still move them side to side. But when you stand up, you make it stand, it doesn't fall, just enough to hold on the surface that it doesn't fall or move. But when you move it with your hand, you can slide each ring. That's how it is fitted.
Can you explain to us why we use and what we've seen in what you went from 220 to 1000 volt on the capacitor with aluminum with nano coating?
Yes, when I noticed that when let's say you place a probe, for example, if in this drawing you put a probe on let me check my mouse pointer. Oh, it is not working. Anyway, if you put your one probe here on the right side and one probe on another, and you move that probe, you put the other probe steady on one side and you move that probe across the nano, you'll see a spike, literally a quick spike in voltage, several thousand, more than 1,000 at that moment. And when I noticed that, oh, it must be the interaction with the field. You have motion, then it turns back to in a form of voltage, similar to what we have with generators when you move copper with across magnetic fields. In this case, we only move the matter part of the probe to this field, and we don't just see it on a small magnet that high, but in this case we see 1,000 volts, more than 1,000 volts. You can try it on your setup. You can verify it. For sure, you'll get the same several 1,000 volts from millivolts. That's the difference. Millivolts to 1,000 volts. That's a huge potential.
Okay, just wait 1 second. I have.
Twisting those wires together to make the rings.
What is important to understand is that this is how you create materials. If you understand this position of the rings and you put your source on one end and different rings, and they feel different rings will give you different material underneath of it. In a way, if I can use the option I have, yes. In the field from here, for example, and the field from here, you could be producing copper here, and you're producing zinc here. This is the source, this is the beginning. So the heavier the elements, the higher energy you go that way, as you amplify. These rings, in a way, is the same source system as we explained. That's why in the matter state or in the plasma state, we can explain to you how things happen and where they go. Is there anything else you would like to add, Rennie?
Yes, now I see what we discussed earlier, Mr. Cash, in a meeting. This is what I am talking about, that we need a common ground. So now I see it. The pin in the middle is our common ground across those rings.
Now you understand what I'm explaining today.
Yes. Now, Dick, we have now a communication between the one on those rings. We have the graduation, and we each can understand or can communicate with each other. We can go across, we can tap across, but all of these have a common ground in the middle, or they are on the same common connection.
So it should be easy to find what we need from it, where we need from it.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any more, or we go to Douglas to see the combination capacitors?
I think Douglas can go. I'll stop my share.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Brendan. Ready?
I'm here, Mr. Fisher. You ready?
Yep, you can carry on.
We'll start out with this. I'll explain as I go along here.
Okay, okay, carry on.
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, this is my makeup for my capacitors and the housing for the wires. The wires are 8-gauge stranded house wire. It's not automotive wire. It's a little thicker gauge wire. To the right, you will see a parchment paper that is a copper oxide composite GaNs with the nano material of the copper itself within the electrolytic gel. And this is explained by Mr. Kesh early on. If we take copper and burn it, get it hot, put it in distilled water, flakes will immediately, nanoparticles will fall. We can collect these. Well, I collected them. I'll show you a specimen here in just a second of where I mixed them. And next beside it is also an aluminum sheet with my first trial with using the same materials on top of the aluminum. And this is a foil that is the thickness of a pie pan. It's thinner than a soda pop can, but thicker than aluminum foil. It's in between. This first set did not work, and I had to use the composite GaNs, which I'll show you here in just a second. This here is the what I was telling you about. This is an electrolytic gel that I used. This is the nanoparticles that I have saved over the times of doing this in distilled water, along with the copper oxide and mixed. You've seen earlier on the paper and the aluminum what it looks like mixed. Here it is after it's mixed. It's just use a little egg beater. You'll see here. This is the composite. Now this is the one I found out that worked. The green doesn't work on the copper. The copper works. Oxide works great on the parchment paper, but not so much on the aluminum. But when I use this composite GaNs here on the aluminum and left the copper oxide on the paper, my capacitor started working properly, and everyone's seen that I've been able to pull 6 kilowatts. Now I burned them up, but I did get 6 kilowatts through those capacitors before I did burn them. And I would like to say all 4 of them did not burn. 3 were badly damaged. The 4th one survived. So with that being said, I'll go back to another picture here. This is a preliminary setup of me winding after I had the nano strands, getting my connections. This was, I believe Armin's brought this forward to us, this connection here of being able to connect the nano materials in such a way. So I used his design and incorporated it into this here, which I showed you earlier. This is not the finished product by all means. I have 18 turns on my capacitor, but this was the first one I built and I wanted to test, and I was in a hurry. I was excited like a little kid. I always am when I'm doing this. And I wanted to see if I had a working capacitor. And this is when I found out that it was functional.